We've been covering a serious situation in Fairfax County and in Arlington County where a registered known sex offender has been visiting rec centers and different gyms, even different schools. The schools are in Arlington, but here in Fairfax County he's been visiting Planet Fitnesses. He's also been going to county rec centers. This person's name is Richard Cox, and he was first serving many years in prison in the 90s for exposing himself to little children at a gymnasium in Arlington. When he got out, he started going to county rec centers in Fairfax County, Planet Fitnesses, etc., and saying that he is transgender. And Fairfax County rec centers allowed him to use the women's locker room on multiple occasions because of Fairfax County's policy. Now, we've been trying to interview Chair Jeff McKay, a number of the county supervisors, the police chief. We've been trying to interview Fairfax County Commonwealth's Attorney Steve Descano, but here you are chatting with us to give Fairfax County's position on this matter. Is that right?
Well, what I'm going to say is I can't speak for the Commonwealth Attorney, I can't speak for the board chair, but I can speak for the police chief. If you look at our organizational chart, the chief reports to the Deputy County Executive, Tom Arnold. Tom reports to me. So unfortunately, or fortunately, the chief has a graduation today. Tom had an issue with his parent, so you get me. So we can talk about whatever you like.
All right. So for 2 months, I've been asking for an interview with the police chief to talk about this issue.
You had me, but you had me 2 months ago.
And I appreciate you sitting down. We chatted about federal workforce issues back then. So we've really wanted to chat with the police chief. We're wondering why, and a lot of people are wondering why, Fairfax County Police have not charged Richard Cox for things like indecent exposure and indecent liberties with children. Those are some of the charges he's facing in Arlington County, but not in Fairfax County. Why is that?
Well, unfortunately, it's a situation that we all are trying to resolve, obviously, because that's why you're here. When we asked the Commonwealth Attorney if there were criminal charges that we could press, they stated no. If I can't press a charge, I can't charge the person. So again, I think you need to speak with the Commonwealth's attorney on this topic. But let's look at things about Richard Cox. I think you're also going to ask me, why don't we have a sex offender registry set up at the rec centers? The difference between here and Arlington is their schools are tied to their pools. So they have the ability to do that. We've been trying to change laws here, but we can't. We have not been successful. So as we stand right now, it's a horrible situation, Nick. It's a horrible situation. But if he trespasses here, we now have a way to at least say you have to get off of our premises.
So you mentioned the schools in Arlington. And so for folks watching this full interview on YouTube or wherever they watch this, Richard Cox did visit at least 2 high schools in Arlington County that have pools open to the public. He also visited a county gym that's overseen by the county board in Arlington. That is where Arlington police actually picked Richard Cox up. Someone at the Barcroft Sports and Fitness Center called police, and they reported that a male was in the women's locker room exposing himself, changing in there, showering in there. The police were called. Richard Cox was still on the scene, so police were able to ID him. They learned he was a sex offender, and in their investigation they learned that he had also visited these schools and did the same thing. And so I understand your point about like the schools having access to a system they might already have in place in schools when people go to check in. But Richard Cox was picked up at a county rec center in Arlington County. So he's charged with exposing himself at that county rec center in Arlington. Why isn't he charged with exposing himself in Fairfax County rec centers?
Again, we have a policy. We gave him a no trespass. If he comes back, I believe we have the ability to charge him. You have to do a crime before we can charge a crime, right? So again, Richard Cox left the facility before the police got there. Now that we've given him a no trespass, if he comes into that facility, he will be charged.
Okay. So moving forward, looking big picture. So you've addressed the Richard Cox issue in the county rec centers, not allowed in there, right? He'd be trespassed,
Right.
he'd be picked up, charged potentially with trespassing. But still, why hasn't he been charged with indecent liberties with children? There were children in those locker rooms in Fairfax County rec centers who saw him naked.
Once again, we were not at the facility when that happened. Police. If he goes to a facility and does that again, he will be charged. Now, here's where I'm really trying to put things together. We have one incident, Richard Cox, as you said, because you mentioned his name. I was not going to mention his name. We have been in, this is a large county, it's 1.2 million people. This is the one and only case we have, thank God. I do not condone what Mr. Cox has done. However, if he comes back to a facility in Fairfax County, he will be charged.
So there's two issues here, and I want to separate them a little bit, okay? So there's the sex offender issue that I think concerns so many people.
Concerns me too.
Concerns you too.
Yeah.
Then there's the issue about biological males going into biological females' locker rooms. There's that issue. I want to separate this a little bit, but let's focus a little more on this case, a sex offender. You know, this case has happened, but the county board, the Board of Supervisors, has not passed any policy that I'm aware of that would prevent this from happening again.
Again, I'm going to say this to you again. This is one case over a multitude of years, multiple years. One case, right? We have separate bathrooms. People adhere to those policies that we have. They use a separate bathroom. If this gentleman, because this case is about this gentleman, Richard Cox, comes on our property, he will be arrested. Case closed. So I separated that. Let's talk about the other portion that you want to talk about.
So just another question about why there are no charges in Fairfax County. Police, as you said the first time,
I'm going to say this to you again. I'm going to say it to you again one more time. If he has a no trespass. If he comes on our property, he will be charged. I can't say that.
You could charge him today, just like Arlington has.
No, he was caught in the bathroom. You said that on this while you asked me. He was in the bathroom. Police came and got him for indecent exposure.
Not in Fairfax County.
Hold on. In Arlington, they picked him up in the restroom, correct?
Not in the restroom. He was present in the facility just like he was, like he was in Fairfax County.
But Nick, that's fine. You know, that's fine. That's how it works. I see you do something, I arrest you when I see you do it. It's not happenstance.
So wait a minute, are you saying police have to be present in the locker rooms to observe a crime for themselves? Because here's the thing, police spoke to witnesses.
Well, that's
we have it in the police reports and the body cam video.
Nick,
and they could charge them based on that.
You're twisting words again. If he is on our property, he will be arrested. That's simple. I'm not sure what else you want me to say. Going forward, if he's on our property, he's arrested.
Why isn't Fairfax County Police charging this man, just like Arlington County has?
Charging him for what? Indecent
exposure and indecent liberties with children. There's a couple of others I could list off too.
Well, tell me where that happened in Fairfax.
It happened at Oakmont Rec Center, Audrey Moore Rec Center.
He was present, but I don't have what you're saying.
They're in the police report. Police spoke to witnesses.
That's not factually accurate?
That is factually accurate.
Okay, well...
We can show you the body cam video and the police reports.
I've seen the body cam video. All you saw in that body cam video is him walking into a bathroom.
No, I think you're talking about the surveillance video. We also have body cam video, body-worn camera video.
And that body cam video was providing him his no trespass.
It also showed police speaking to a woman who said there was she and her daughter, they were in the women's locker room at Oakmont Rec Center. And police spoke with this woman, and she said her daughter saw Cox naked in the shower, exposing his naked body to her little girl.
And once again, he has a no trespass, and if he comes on our property again, he will be arrested.
What I'm getting at here is if there are other sex offenders, or even people who aren't on the sex offender registry, who see what this individual did, and they want access to the women's locker room, they could do the same thing, but face no criminal charges in Fairfax County. They may in Arlington County, but not in Fairfax County. Is that the message the county is sending to those people?
That is not the message I'm sending. That might be the message you're sending. But what I am saying is he has a no trespass. And if he comes on our property, he's going to be arrested. this is a one-off situation. If you can tell me there's some other situation like this, I'll address that. But we're still talking about a one-off situation that probably happened almost a year ago.
No, it happened in November. It happened.
Well, sorry.
Of last year.
Let me back up. I am in 2025. I just finished the budget, so you know how I'm
And
thinking.
he may still be doing this to this day. If Arlington police
not
did
in
not
Fairfax,
pick him
he is
up, well,
If Arlington police did not pick him up,
yeah.
they did pick him up.
They
and
picked
we're
him up
still-
in December,
and
but
we're
Fairfax
still-
County did
we-
not. You know
we're-
what? Here's
we're
the
still-
thing.
No.
Fairfax
no,
County
hold
could
on
have
a
picked
second.
this guy up.
Just hold on a second.
Yeah, let's listen.
You don't let me finish. I enjoy having conversations with you. I do. But this is a one-off situation. Richard Cox is in jail. If he gets out of jail and comes to Fairfax, he's going to get arrested if he comes on our property. He has a no trespass.
I want to tell you what Arlington victims are saying about Fairfax County, victims of Richard Cox and what he has done in Arlington County. They point to Fairfax County Commonwealth's Attorney Steve Descano, who did not prosecute Richard Cox when he allegedly exposed himself in Women's Planet Fitness locker rooms for months. Mr. Cox even admitted he did that.
Yeah.
And Planet Fitness has the same policy that Fairfax County does. They allow people to use the bathrooms and locker rooms based on their gender identity.
Yeah.
Had Mr. Descano successfully prosecuted Mr. Cox would not have gone to Arlington to expose himself to little children in the women's locker rooms at Washington Liberty High School, Wakefield High School, and Barcroft Sports and Fitness Center. So this could have been prevented had Fairfax County, they say, stepped up, filed charges, prosecuted Mr. Cox. What do you have to say about that?
I think you need to have a conversation with the Commonwealth's attorney. That's what I have to say about that.
Well, he's not doing interviews on this, so what do you say about that?
Well, you heard what I've said about that. If he comes on property in Fairfax County, he's arrested. Once he's arrested, it's to the Commonwealth's attorney's office to do what they do with people that are arrested.
As the county executive, what is your message to Fairfax County Commonwealth Steve Descano, who refused to prosecute this case against Mr. Cox? And this was back in June, so this is before he went to the Fairfax County Rec Centers. What's your message to him?
Well, I'm sure Mr. Descano is going to be watching this video with you and myself, and I'm sure he's going to take a different tack going forward. That's my message to him.
You think he would prosecute this person going forward?
My name's Bryan Hill. I'm not Steve Descano.
Okay. Because he is a known sex offender to Steve Descano's office. I want to kind of give some context here. So that situation happened in June of last year at Planet Fitness. Also happened at another one too, the one in Seven Corners, one on Lee Highway. And just a couple of years prior to that, Steve Descano's office was prosecuting Mr. Cox, dropped charges, but they had a case in front of them. It was a case about him failing to register as a sex offender, and they dropped charges. So this is an individual who was known to Mr. Descano's office, and then a couple of years later, fast forward to June of last year, this situation happened at Planet Fitness, and they would not prosecute on behalf of the victim. What do you think about that?
Well, it's an unfortunate situation, and I'm hoping going forward that any sex offender is going to be registered, and the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office moves forward with prosecution. I don't prosecute, but I will tell you this: any person who is a sex offender and has got a no trespass policy, we have a no trespass policy, we will arrest them, and then we give them to the Commonwealth's attorney, and they will do what they need to do.
Okay. So I think we've talked a lot about the sex offender issue.
Yeah.
One more question I have on that is, Virginia lawmakers, particularly Democrats who represent Fairfax County, have told me there is no reason why Fairfax County should not be charging Mr. Cox with some of the crimes that I just mentioned. They said there's nothing that prohibits the county from doing that, even though Chair Jeff McKay said he's waiting on state lawmakers to take action. So what do you have to say about state lawmakers saying that Jeff McKay's wrong on this?
I haven't heard that argument. I'm just speaking about how the operations of Fairfax County work, and as the police chief has his authority to do what he has to do. I'm going to say it again: if Richard Cox or any sex offender who has a no trespass policy is on our property, we will arrest.
How could you prevent a sex offender from gaining access to very popular rec centers in Fairfax County going forward? These are very popular for families, as you know. There are wait lists for people to sign up for spring camps, summer camps for their kids to participate at the pools, at the camps. I mean, these are places where a lot of kids are and were when Mr. Cox visits. So going forward, why hasn't the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors addressed this? Why haven't they come up with a way, for instance, at check-in, when people check in their IDs, they can flag that against the sex offender registry. Loudoun County, as I understand, does this already with their rec centers.
Okay, well, in Fairfax County, we're not tied to schools. I believe in Loudoun County they might be tied to schools, but I'm not certain. It would be great if the Commonwealth of Virginia or even the federal government would state a federal sex offender registry that we can tie in and feed into. We don't have that ability at this juncture, but it'd be a good topic for us to put on our legislative agenda.
Why do you guys always point to Richmond for the fixes? Fairfax County is the most populous county in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
You're absolutely right, and I think
Arlington County's figured it out. Why can't Fairfax County?
I think when you have a Dillon Rule state, which we are, it's Mother May I. Arlington's different type of organizational structure. They have a lot of different things that they are able to deal with, but we're a Dillon Rule state. They are not a part of the Dillon Rule.
But doesn't the Park Authority have the ability to implement this technology? Other counties have, even beyond Arlington.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I will find out for you, and then I'll send a note to you.
You might recall when I approached Chairman Jeff McKay and asked him questions about this topic. It was in the room over there, not the atrium.
Okay.
It was when he ran into the bathroom to avoid our questions.
Unfortunately,
on this topic.
I was at a funeral for my aunt during that time.
But do you recall our story on that?
I was out of the country. My aunt passed away. I was not here at that time.
I'm sorry to hear about your aunt. 2 weeks after that happened, after I approached Jeff McKay, there were signs put up around the supervisors that said no unauthorized access beyond this point. Whose idea was that?
Again, I was not here for that, and I don't know who provided those signs, but I will say this, from a security standpoint, staff are on one side, general public is on another side. Everybody has access to the room. There's no way to get out of the room other than 2 doors, so to me it's not really a big deal. However, it's a large room. Maybe the access needs to be restricted because we have a lot of staff that are on camera doing exactly what we're trying to do. Be open and transparent with our government process.
What it appears is the reason why I ask is because these new signs are put up right after we approached Jeff McKay during the lunch break to ask him questions.
Okay.
It appears that Jeff McKay wants to protect himself from questions about this topic, perhaps others as well. And that's what it looks like. Is that the case?
I don't think that's the case
Then
at all.
why hasn't he also said, oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were done with your answer. Go ahead.
I don't think that's the case at all. However, I will say this, Jeff McKay is an open book. He's all over this county. And I'm going to say this to you. There's no answer or no question he won't answer, as far as I know. But I was not here when you said it, if you follow them into the bathroom.
Except for when I'm asking the questions, is that right?
I can't speak for the chairman. I'm going to say this. You ask me a question, I answer it. I'm here. Why don't we just keep it between you and I? And when you get the opportunity to speak with the chairman, you can ask him those questions. But I have no, hold on. I'm here to speak to you, and that's what and you asked me to do that, and you know what my day looks like today, because I stated to you earlier, I'm going until at least 9:30 tonight. But I made time for you, Nick Minock, because I think you're a great guy.
Well, thank you. I have been asking Jeff McKay for interviews on this topic for several months, going, I think, even back to February. And so, because it's not about us. I mean, people in the community want to know where he stands on this issue. And the reason why I bring up those signs around the supervisors is because the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, it appears, worked faster to protect themselves from questions from members of the media than they have to protect women and children from sex offenders and rec centers. Why haven't they acted faster on that?
I think you're really twisting the words here. So I will just say this: if I'm not mistaken, this board has over 25 public interviews over the last 3 weeks. Okay, that's a lot of interviews with a lot of media. Maybe not with you, but with
That's not the question. The question is, why haven't they
you didn't let me
acted
finish.
faster to protect women and children from sex offenders?
You didn't let me finish. What I will say about sex offenders, if that person comes on our property, he will be arrested, period.
How do you prevent a sex offender from going to a Fairfax County rec center again and exposing themselves to women and children?
How do you prevent a sex offender from going to a facility? How do you do that? I'm asking you. How do you do
Arlington
that?
County has figured it out.
No, they have not. They were able to arrest a gentleman, and I'm saying to you that we're going to arrest a gentleman if he comes on our property again. Simple.
Well, and after we reported on the arrest, they implemented changes. And this was just one of the changes they made, which was checking the IDs at the check-in center.
Right.
And when someone goes now to a school or to a county rec center in Arlington County, and they put their ID for check-in, the staff will know if they are on the sex offender registry
Yeah, that's
right
probably
away.
good. And I will talk to the county and the county manager in Arlington, actually this evening, to ask him how he's implemented that.
Okay,
Thank
so
you, bro.
want to move on really quick.
I gotta go, man. I told you, it's 9:30. It's 10:30.
All right, last question
I'm
for
sorry.
you. Is the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors going to change their policy that allows biological men to use biological females' locker rooms in Fairfax County rec centers? Why or why not?
So I will say this to you again. We have had one situation. We have given one no trespass policy. That person comes on our property, he will be arrested. We have bathrooms, all gender bathrooms, associated throughout the facilities, and people will use those bathrooms. This issue is one issue, one off. We don't want it to be more, but the more we report on it, we probably will have more. Again, I'm going to say this to you again. They have a separate bathroom. We have a separate bathrooms for all. If they choose to use it, we have not had any issues other than this gentleman.